Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Hopefully you guys are all having a wonderful day. Today's upload is going to be my official Fall Outlook 2018. I was planning on making this a couple days earlier, even a full week ahead or before, but things got in the way, so I apologize. Fall meteorologically has officially started. Astronomically, it doesn't start till September 21st, so however you want to count it, I will count it astronomically, and anything you see through here will be counted through December 21st, including my forecast. So hopefully you will enjoy, and thanks for clicking on this video. And this is obviously for the year 2018. So before we get into this video, consider subscribing to my channel, consider liking the video. If you're wondering or hesitating why should I subscribe, this is my first video I'm ever watching, you could check out my channel, check out my other videos, and then you could consider or decide whether this channel suits your needs. And then whether or not, if you're a old returning member, then you could, and you're still not subscribed for some reason, then you could subscribe. I'm just letting you know it's a win-win for both of us. You get my notifications for my videos, and I benefit from it, and it's for free. So thank you for doing that. So the four main factors that will be going into this hopefully shorter than average video is the ENSO outlook or ENSO outlook. I'll explain what all of these mean in a minute. Analogs, my previous fall outlook that I made a couple weeks back, and my other videos that I have included. I actually think in this forecast I did not include this. I made this a couple days earlier, so I think it'll just be those three main factors. So the first thing we need to look at is the ENSO outlook. And ENSO neutral is favored through July through September 2018, with an El Nino favored thereafter. Chances for an El Nino are near 70% during Northern Hemisphere winter 2018-2019. So as you're watching this video, you may be already having one thing contradicting this. So this is updated last time, August 9th, 2018, and tomorrow they actually will be updating this since it's always updated on the second Thursday of the month. And as far as I'm concerned, tomorrow's the second Thursday of September. It's a little bit unfortunate that I'm making this video the day before, but this is the, I already put this video out for so long that I need to make this video out by tomorrow. And they may have changed a little bit, but I'm fairly sure that there's the main idea is still going to be relatively the same. Chances for an El Nino are near 70%, so the confidence is fairly high. But one thing I want to point out here is that this is, chances for an El Nino. They don't specify what type of El Nino, and if you're wondering, yes, what type of El Nino does actually make a difference in the weather that affects the United States. But if you don't even know what an El Nino is, you don't even know what impacts it has, it looks something like this. A typical El Nino pattern is warm and dry across the north during the fall and winter months, and wet and cool across the fall months during the south. So yes, if we're counting on snow during the fall, that would mean typically less snow for the northern states during the fall, and a little bit more snow for the southern states during fall. Again, the northern states will see more snow than the south. It's just compared to average, the south may see a little bit more than the north. But snow in terms of my fall forecast isn't necessarily a major factor due to the fact that a lot of the country doesn't even see major snows during fall. Maybe a couple of flurries, couple of snowflakes, couple of snow showers, maybe encoding or up to an inch. And that is interchangeable based on, obviously, the pattern. Sometimes you see it in some locations, sometimes you don't. In other areas, it is more of a staple base. So earlier, I was saying how there could be a catch, or there is a catch in what NOAA is saying with their ENSO or ENSO outlook. They are just saying that an El Nino is possible. They didn't specify what type, and what I meant by that is there's a potential El Nino Modokai forming, which is a type of an El Nino, so it's technically still an El Nino, but it's a different type of El Nino Modokai, and there are some subtle differences that actually turn out to make a very big impact across the United States in terms of weather and in general, the temperatures, snow, precip, everything along those lines. So during a regular El Nino, you could see that Okay, so first off, I want to say that El Nino or La Nina, if you heard those terms before, that is determined based off these waters off the Peruvian coast in the equatorial Pacific Ocean. Whether these waters are below average, which indicates a La Nina, or above average, which is an El Nino, that's what makes this pattern. That's what makes an El Nino, whether it's above or below average. And for an El Nino, it's above average in the water temps across the equatorial Pacific. So you can see it looks something like this. This is called an eastern-based El Nino. Hence, it is most of the warm water is eastern-based rather than western-based or even central-based. Now, during an El Nino Madoka, you can see that the water temperature isn't not nearly as warm or above average in most locations as during an eastern-based El Nino. This is called a central-based El Nino because the waters that are warm are minimal, but there are some, and they are central-based in the Pacific Ocean rather than eastern-based, which is right here. You can see in that box. And then we also box these two areas due to the fact that we want to point out that by the Pacific, Eastern Pacific Ocean, East Asia, Oceania, you can see some cooler temperatures, and by the Peruvian coast, or just off the coast of South America, you can see some cooler temperatures. So it is more central based. And first, before I show the impacts of an El Nino Madoka versus an El Nino, I want to show you guys. I want to show you why I'm assuming that an El Nino Madoka may happen. I'm not saying one will happen, but as you can see, these are the current sea surface temperatures, and there are a couple of things that are a little bit, indicating of a potential El Nino Madoka forming. So as you can see right now, what we're seeing is just an area-wide above average temperature event across the Pacific Ocean. There's not an eastern-based event. There's not really a central-based. So what I'm saying is, if we're gonna assume an El Nino is gonna form, we have the same right to assume an El Nino Madoka will happen, due to the fact that there's a 50-50 shot for both of those. And even if we look at some areas like south of Greenland, it is below average right now. If you look during El Nino Madoka, it is below average. Let's say New England, we're looking at above average temperatures right off the coast, and during an El Nino Madoka, we're seeing above average temperatures. So there are a couple of things that are looking a little bit similar just off the west coast. Cooler than average temperatures during an El Nino Madoka. What we're seeing right now are some cooler than average temperatures. So I also want to point out Atlantic Ocean, a little bit cooler than average during an El Nino Madoka, and right now what we're seeing is slightly cooler, not significant, but that is another thing I'd like to point out. And even if you look at the smaller bodies of water, like during an El Nino Madoka, I think this is called James Bay, and this is Hudson Bay. This whole thing right here is mainly below average, and what we're seeing right now is below average. So even the smaller bodies of water are resembling that an El Nino Madoka may happen. So whether or not an El Nino Madoka happens, I'd still like to show you the impacts that it may have. So this is an El Nino, and during a regular El Nino, the U.S. rainfall anomalies look something like this. So you can see that most of the country is split between drier and warmer, or drier and wetter. So you can see that the central base, or the central part of the country, is wetter, including much of the northwest, and then drier across just parts of the north. There's not really a big pattern here. It's just some areas can be wetter, some areas can be drier. However, with an El Nino Madoka, you can see it's a little bit different. There's wetter than normal conditions across the southeast, wetter than normal across the northern Midwest and the northeast, and then much drier than normal for the west compared to a regular El Nino. You can see, those are huge differences from oranges to dark greens. That is a big difference. So whether an El Nino Madoka happens or an El Nino, those two things will decide a lot about this upcoming fall and winter. So this is a little bit again, you may see all my videos. They are very similar. I always explain these same things over and over again, due to the fact that I like to base my things off of one thing, and not just one thing, but one consistent event, so they're not all over the place. So this is how a El Nino looks like during the months October to December. I took a bunch of temperatures, surface air temperatures, composite anomalies, which is basically where and at what time are air temperatures above or below average. And you can see October to December, a bunch of El Nino years. October to December, a bunch of El Nino Madoka years. And you can see very similar El Nino warm, El Nino Madoka warm. However, with an El Nino Madoka, there are more locations where closer to average or even below average, including parts of the southeast, northeast, and in general the south. However, with an El Nino, just El Nino, it's more central. It's more based on the southwest, seeing the cooler temperatures. So those are some subtle differences that could make a fairly large impact. If we were to look at my, this is my, I think my previous fall outlook that I made a couple of weeks back, you could see that I made warmer than average, less snow across the northwest. I would still stick with that statement. Average cold and snow amounts, possibly warmer for this blue area. And I would maybe reduce this area a little bit and expand this area, this shady area, this sandy area, out a little bit. And then colder and slightly above average snow, I would definitely decrease this down to this. Hold up, let me turn on my pointer to this line where I'm drawing it right now. And the coldest, snowiest fall probability, I would still keep this the same. Snowiest, again, yes, Florida doesn't really see snow in fall, but I just wanted to highlight the whole state due to the fact that pink will have, if parts of Florida may still see snow, because remember, I extended this fall outlook to December 21st. And now for my final fall outlook, drumroll please. This is what I think will turn out. So ignore this white bar here. I'm sorry for that. That was a glitch. And again, it is very neutral. It is not really aggressive in any sort of sense. You can see there's a lot of real estate that is empty, that is just, it's just not covered with any colors due to the fact that there's a lot of uncertainty whether an El Nino happens or an El Nino Madoka happens, or even potentially minimal chances of just a neutral happening, but that doesn't seem likely. So what I have is for the northwest in the oranges and yellows, warmer and drier across these areas. And then I have colder and snowier across these areas here in the southeast. So again, when I was referring back to these El Nino Madoka conditions forming, I am basing off a little bit off the El Nino Madoka forming, but again, I'm not extending the cold weather all the way up into the northeast due to the fact that an El Nino may be trying to get in here, and that may bring some warmer temperatures or above average temperatures into the northeast. So I may have overdone a little bit on this colder and snowier area in real estate, but I do think this is a fair bet that these areas, especially the darker the color gets, is the higher confidence. I would say this is 70 to 80% chance of seeing colder and snowier winter. This is around 50, 60, 70. This is 30, 40, 50, and this is 0 to 30% chance of confidence. So, and in here it's just equal chances. It could be either warmer and drier or colder and snowier. So that is that. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something new. Please consider subscribing to my channel. Again, it helps my channel grow. Consider liking the video, and I'll catch you all guys in the next episode.